Coming up on today's news, there is weird drama surrounding Kairi Sane's potential WWE return.
WWE's secret CM Punk tactics have been revealed.
We have details on the salary to do with Ric Flair's arrival in AEW.
And Impact Wrestling morale is surging after recent successes. I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Sidgwick.
And this is the news.
So the first story of today is Kairi Sane isn't, and now is coming back to WWE. WrestleVote, Twitter/X Scoopster, confirmed that she had now been listed after months and months of rumours on that internal roster. This was initially refuted by the very reliable PW Insider's Mike Johnson. WrestleVote was adamant that no, she is returning, she is listed, and then PW Insider then followed through with the report that yes, she is in fact listed on the internal roster, which is very, very good news. Kairi Sane is an absolutely tremendous talent. For my money, she did not get utilised effectively throughout that first WWE run. She was, presided over creative-wise by Vince McMahon, so that was never going to happen. Triple H, one would hope, would have better ideas for her. Kairi Sane is a potential babyface sensation. She's got the best finish in all of pro wrestling, arguably. She radiates just this incredible charm. She's even so talented that she was good in that sort of mischievous heel role in WWE. But I think the money there is in a babyface run. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it was Andy Murray, actually, Mr. Migraine, get well soon, who tried to manifest Rhea Ripley versus Kairi Sane into existence. What an absolutely incredible dynamic that would be. I'm really excited about this news.
Yeah. I mean, I got very excited when they first were reporting that Kairi Sane was going back to WWE. And like you say, it was all a bit weird after that. It went quiet. Then there was speculation whether or not it was going to be happening and changes. And obviously, you never know what decisions or who's making the big decisions sometimes within WWE. We even had questions recently speculating on about it, and I sort of took a guess saying I think there was reports that she'd finished her deal with Stardom, was it, I think? And then was just taking some time off and was due to come back around this time of year. But like you say, Sidge, I think she's a sensation. Not sure how happy she's going to be walking back in and being like, all right, Nia. But nevertheless, I think she's going to be brilliant. And maybe they could even utilise that. I like the way that they are just portraying Nia Jax right now. And like you say, that finish, I mean, it's so good.
It's just spectacular.
How, you just go, oh, she's going to do an elbow drop. That's fine. Oh my God, that would make my heart explode.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely sensational. So I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, I mean, you'd be stupid not to, the actual Kairi Sane babyface run. It should have been all along.
Yeah, let us know who you'd like to see her face when she returns to WWE in the comment section below. Let's move over and talk about another person who's going to be returning to WWE very soon, CM Punk. It's all a work. Now, granted,
it is
granted,
not.
5 or Select have come through with a report saying it's still a firm no, but if you believe them, I mean, you're sensible because they're a very reputable series of journalists. But, in my opinion, it's all the work he's turned up at Survivor Series.
No, Sean Ross Sapp knows his stuff.
Good point. But anyway, WWE had a bit of little secret tactics regarding the Punker when it came to the Fastlane press conference. Obviously, no real questions were asked about that, and we weren't sure whether or not that has been an edict put out by WWE, or people were just like, what's the point? Nothing's going to happen. But apparently, they were surprised, WWE sources, at the lack of Punk questions at Fastlane. But had he been brought up, WWE's line was to be that although there was no ill will between the two parties, Punk wasn't signed, there weren't any ongoing negotiations, and fans should not expect to see the Chicago in a Survivor Series on the 25th of November. They also wish to note that the possibility is always there, but yeah, they kind of prepped just in case questions about the Punker came up, which does make sense considering, well, he's always a topic of conversation, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. If you remember as well, was it a return to Chicago? This is a very hazy memory of mine. I apologise. I probably should have looked this up. It was a return to Chicago, and Stephanie McMahon was getting CM Punk chants, and she said something to the effect of, if you keep that up for the amount of time he got battered in his first UFC fight, you'll last longer than he did, or whatever. That was clearly a similar thing to that, where they expected it. You have a backup plan in place. Quite astute, but as someone pointed out on X, I forget who it was, it's quite funny that the question was not in fact asked. Look, I've got very minimal experience it being in these presses. the atmosphere created is quite. I know it's quite intense. It's just you just never feel particularly comfortable.
Whether WWE or AEW.
Oh god, it's an in-character thing. It's called a press conference. You are kind of taking part in this fictional storyline driver. In effect, it's quite weird. I will say that I was going to ask quite a pressing question when I got to Tony Khan at Double or Nothing, but never ever got the chance to do it. But ultimately, it's not the environment where these questions are posed.
No.
You'd not know until you sat down there.
Plus, you probably got thrown slightly by MJF putting over our podcast.
Oh no, it's on Cloud9.
Anyway,
where can you find that?
What Culture Wrestling Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, or search for it on YouTube because we're on there now. Big Show. Cedric did a Big Show impression yesterday. Anyway, let's talk about Ric Flair.
Yeah, Ric Flair, Fightful Select yet again, the most prolific scoopsters in the business, have come through with details on his deal, which have made me even more sad about it. I'm not remotely happy about Ric Flair arriving in AEW. It just feels like such a cynical. How long's it been since that Dark Side of the Ring? 2 years. That's enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just, I hate it. And sort of deepening that anger, that festering anger I feel, apparently most, if not all, of his salary will be covered by the energy drink company.
Yeah.
And it has been likened to a sort of Macho Man Randy Savage Slim Jim style situation. And it kind of, that makes it more annoying because, like, it just makes a ethical, moral decision that bit easier, where it's like, right, we could do this. Right, okay, but he can't talk, he's a complete liability, he has an absolutely awful past which has recently been uncovered. No one asked for Ric Flair. We're not in the best of positions as a company, we're quite cool, but we are not desperate. On every conceivable level, this was just a terrible, terrible, pointless idea, but the fact that maybe they've sort of grappled internally with this and thought, oh, we're not paying him. Yeah. So what does it matter? That just makes it even worse for me.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, it's it's a business at the end of the day, but it is a business run by a billionaire, so it's not that essential. And like you said, just think the vibes that this gives out. You were talking about it on social media. Loads of people.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing.
And I saw someone respond to one of your tweets, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of the point where someone was like, doesn't matter, everyone's kind of forgot about the whole Vince McMahon thing anyway, it'll be like that in a few months' time. That's not the right way to think about these things. But maybe we should do a sort of round table podcast on our new podcast channel.
What's it called?
About the What Culture Wrestling podcast. About all this to come out next week because we haven't got any editors on Monday.
Yeah.
So stick around for that one. We'll definitely go into more detail about the state of AEW because
it's a state,
and it's just one of those,
a mess.
It's one of those things where it's like, the comparisons with TNA and WCW, I think, were completely unfounded in the early days. The more and more now, you're like, what? Like, I saw someone. There's another good reply to one of your tweets. It was like, WWE got 25% better, and apologies, AEW shit themselves to death.
Yes, they just have completely and utterly shit the bed. I'm really looking forward to recording that podcast and drilling all of this down. It's just remarkable how this company could thread an intricate storyline and you'd never see the outcome, but it made all the sense in the world. And now that paradigm has been shifted so much that they are now making the sort of decisions that literally everyone is thinking like, well, we know better really. What the f*** are you doing? What on earth are you playing at?
Yeah.
How can you not see what... everyone's social media activity is curated differently. Certainly from my perspective, virtually every single person I follow was just going, what? Inconceivable, but we will absolutely drill down into the podcast. But we've got another story.
Indeed, yeah, that'll come out on Monday. But speaking of TNA, it's good again now. It is Impact Wrestling technically right now, but
good again?
Yeah,
good.
Okay, fair enough. It's obviously going to become TNA again in January. And Mike Johnson of PW Insider are reporting that their UK tour that happened last week has received rave reviews with shows playing out in packed out buildings. I went there on Friday. Brilliant. There was TNA chants everywhere. People were just really happy about total non-stop action back being a thing again. And the morale is absolutely fantastic off the back of that, which is always nice to hear. The highest point, says a source, since they joined the promotion, bestest been in many years. A lot of excitement about 2024. TNA set to return with a new studio in January. And speaking of the show I went to on Friday, that was Turning Point. It was filmed last Friday. It comes out today with WhatCulture's own Simon Miller versus Joe Hendry. It is a load of fun, that match. Go and check that out when it airs tonight. And there's a great match with Will Ospreay and Eddie Edwards there as well. Just one of those stories again. Just nice to hear people are enjoying going to work.
Yeah, it makes a bit of a bloody change. Look, no, I think this TNA rebrand has been so incredibly inspired. Like, I can't remember who pointed this out. I wish it was my insight. I'm quite jealous of it, actually. Originally, that TNA brand was so stupid because the advertising industry already has this like really low opinion of the professional wrestling fan base, hence why it took so long for a viable alternative to emerge, even though for decades now there's been a lapsed WWE audience every couple of years throughout this 21st century drop-off before, they got really hot under this resurgence. But the idea that who calls it TNA anymore? Who really says tits and ass? It just doesn't fly. Barely TNA, sort of the T apostrophe A.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something anyone says anymore. So you could probably strip any context away from those words and it's just a new thing.
Yes.
Almost. It's completely out of just everyday vernacular in sort of pop culture and all the rest of it. People just love nostalgia. The very debate surrounding the name change and the brand change have actually created a bit of sort of discourse surrounding Impact, which, because AEW, again, is so greedy, has marketed itself as the buffet. Everything you like about wrestling is in one place. Bloodbaths, lucha, brawling, technical wrestling. It was really hard for people to even talk about, much less watch Impact without a USP. And I think the timing of this is inspired as well. They're doing so amid AEW's creative decline.
Yeah.
There's less and less conversation. I think more than one person feels like, it's not really worth getting jazzed about. And I just think the timing of this, the idea behind it, it's really good. And fair play to Scott D'Amore. I think he's playing a bit of a blinder. I'm not suggesting for a moment that they are, anywhere close to becoming the number two, or if it's even a remote possibility. But, it's a publicity stunt that's got them off to a really strong start, and they can only be commended for that.
And at a time where you would just assume all the major talent would be gobbled up, like you say, by AEW or WWE, and if they didn't want to go there, they'd probably just go to Japan.
I'm not being funny, that will happen if this thing actually takes off a little bit.
Yeah, but they've got, Mike Bailey, they've got Trinity, of course. Eric Young's back there on the bet. He got a great reception, for example, on last Friday in Newcastle. I'm really excited to see what happens with this and check out Turning Point, like I said, on their streaming service tonight. Right, let's move over to your Twitter questions, or X questions, at WhatCulture WWE, of course. First question today comes from Vacant's Manager, who says, Gents, I recently watched old Randy Savage and Jake Roberts promos from the 80s. Who could talk you into a building with promos today? Paul Heyman, MJF?
Well, yes, they're obviously both incredible orators. What additionally annoys me about All Elite Wrestling right now is that they have got people under contract very much capable of doing this, and I know because I've got interested in their matches because they were once allowed to sell them on television. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley.
Yes.
Why are they not talking in prominent roles, in well-cast roles, every single week? It feels like I've watched Jon Moxley brawl in post-match angles with just a wild assortment of people in Orange Cassidy's supergroup, heels and baby faces alike, depending on how the BCC is aligned. Like Jon Moxley, this heel experiment has not really worked. And the BCC are absolutely all out of the shop in terms of the character alignment. Just have him as a babyface, selling matches, because that was peak AEW, and he's still there, he's still awesome. And he looks like he's got the bit between his teeth. Eddie Kingston is baffling to me. Absolutely baffling. Tony Khan, right, I know he's just done what he's done and signed who he's just signed. Ordinarily, he's shown sort of signs that he can be an alright guy, because when he not demotes, but just prioritizes somebody else in his storylines. And the same thing happened with FTR and Kingston, where, right, I'm not going to use you prominently because I know I've got everyone in the world. Sorry, Eddie, or I'm going with the Acclaimed instead of FTR. He kind of just gave them a little dream side project run. Aussie Open in New Japan, and go to Triple R and be the IWG Tag Team Champions for FTR. Now Eddie, it's who are your favourite Japanese wrestlers? Go and wrestle them and beat them.
Yeah.
it's nice for him, but Eddie Kingston, I think, can do so much more than that. Like, there's no one who can convince me that a rivalry or a grievance or a something consumes his very soul and makes me believe like Eddie Kingston, and the guy hasn't spoke. When was the last time Eddie Kingston spoke at length on Dynamite or Collision?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like...
Look, that Collision promo after the
one
Jarrett loss.
Bleeding and spitting all over the lens.
Why can't he do this every single goddamn week? He's unbelievable at it.
Mox did it on Dynamite this week, and I was like, there it is.
There it is. It's there. It's
Just
there.
do that.
That's the most annoying thing. They actually have it. They have it.
Yeah.
So Eddie Kingston and Mox for me. And you know what? Dr. Britt Baker, I don't know what's up with that. They were teasing something with Hikaru Shida that seems to have been dropped. I don't know if that's typical present day AEW cack-handed, unfocused, directionless, chaotic stuff, or whether there's an injury there. I know she's had back problems, but like the 2020 Britt Baker, that heel was so good at creating interest, so she goes on that list too.
Obviously, yeah, MJF and Paul Heyman need to be mentioned. And I will say, another one really obvious. Cody Rhodes, like, they ended Raw on a DQ this week, and you thought, oh, it's a bit disappointing, especially to go home ahead of Crown Jewel. And then she went, just send Cody out and cut a 2-minute promo. And I was like, oh, everything's fine again now, I'm sold. And also Turbo Floyd. I want to give him a mention almost every news video because he's bloody brilliant again with the outrunners.
I think Swerve as well.
Swerve's great.
Swerve's my pick for the next AEW World Champion.
Chris Theobald, thank you for our second question today, Chris. Hello, gents. Happy Friday. Do you think now that Ric Flair has signed a multi-year deal with AEW, the WWE will want to put a championship belt on Cena to beat Flair's records?
I'm not remotely suggesting for a minute that WWE isn't vindictive and petty, even in this new era. But I just think that even they would consider it a disproportionate response. I can't see that happening at all. Even if it's for the Seth Rollins lesser title.
I will say I think they're going to get rid of the woo from the opening video thing.
Oh yeah, that's the kind of thing they would do.
By tonight on SmackDown, he's going to go, yeah, instead of woo, probably, or something like that.
No, that would not surprise me in the least. I just think that would be too petty even for them, even though they are quite petty.
And if you want the immediate thoughts of Michael Sidgwick behind this whole Ric Flair situation, we'll talk more about it on the Collision Preview podcast a little bit later on today. WhatCulture Wrestling Podcast, as I said, wherever you get your podcast from. Final question today comes from AJ David, who says, hi Dadleys. He sent us this yesterday, but I just spotted it and I thought it'd be perfect time to answer this. Do you think that AEW could keep the devil angle going long enough that one of the major stars' contracts doesn't get renewed with the Fed, revealing them as the mastermind? I find the prospect of Balor or AJ interesting.
It's hard to tell. You look at AEW storytelling, you hear the reports from Dave Meltzer about the lack of forward planning, the lack of communication to talent, who increasingly don't know what they're going to do from week to week. It's mainly, here's what you're doing today.
Which is the problem, because you always talk about them sort of leaving breadcrumbs.
Yeah, you can't foreshadow anything, you can't tease anything, you can't sort of, like hide anything in plain sight and have that epiphany moment.
Yeah.
Oh, if I'd only paid a bit more attention, well, guess what? Now I'm really going to focus on the product.
Oh, Mega and Callis are there.
Yeah. It's ridiculous that they are not doing this anymore. It really is fun to know, to have the security as well that it's all going to be okay. Just makes sitting down and watching it that much better. I do think that there's an actual plan for this. I don't think they just stuck some tit in a mask and thought, right, okay, we'll work something out. I don't think it's quite that bad. And I suspect that the person playing the devil is already under contract and there is a personnel reveal and even a time reveal. I think we'll find out who that person is at World's End. Where's the apostrophe? Are several worlds ending? What are the other worlds? It'd be good if it was like World's End and it was like ROH and Battle of the Bells. Oh, that's good. I can do with the back of those.
I think it's a nice idea. It's thinking, oh, you know what, Balor or
Who's
AJ.
to suggest they'd want to come?
Well, even that, let alone that.
I mean, that would be the absolute height of arrogance to think, oh, we'll get someone like that when their deals expire.
Yeah. It's a very risky strategy as well, because you obviously can't put pen to paper on it. That's just downright illegal. So the best you can do is a handshake deal, and wrestlers can change their minds on that sort of thing. And if the Fed got wind of it, they would be like, we're going to move heaven and earth to really bugger up this storyline. And then they'd have to be like, and the devil is probably QT Marshall or something like that. I like the idea of Callis right now. I think it was Hamfler, who was talking about that with me the other day. But I do like the tease of Britt Baker and the old Doja Cat. Is that a thing? Who knows? But let us know your thoughts on that and everything we've discussed in the comment section below. And check out this video. See you later.